to know. If you can, I don't know if they're going to provide it for you, or if you can, bring paper and pencils. Paper and pencils, color pencils, or whatever pencil you feel you need to bring, whatever colors. If you need to bring a lot of colors, bring it. If you don't feel like you need to bring a lot of colors, don't. But bring that and paper and pencil so you can learn something about yourself. Ready?
Yes, all set.
A virgin birth refers to interdimensional mating and results in what is called moon child or sex child. This is also a sterile birth, and the sterility results from the interdimensional mating. That means that's a demon child. Go back and look at Rosemary's Baby. On the physical level, a virgin or even any other woman can be impregnated and not know it and know how. This is the result of a latent male protein from the father that resides in all females but cannot be found unless it is triggered. It is, in fact, an acid that acts just like a sperm and penetrates the zona pellucida, a protective body which contains a sac. The zona pellucida is very hard to penetrate if it wasn't any old sperm or perhaps anything else, like animal sperm, could come in and be a candidate for gestation. And that's what I was talking about yesterday when the Moors, when they wanted to bring a new soul onto the planet, they would ejaculate first and get rid of the old sperm and produce the child with new sperm. No pregnancy occurs when the native or the psychic intelligence in the cell receives a message that a sperm is out there waiting to enter. If the proper biological conditions are present, the sperm is permitted access in the case of a virgin birth. The protein is activated to act like a sperm and fools the zona particular into thinking it is a sperm. You know what's funny about virgin birth? The first time we really hear that is when we go to church. So what is it saying here? When we're dealing with entities and we're dealing with demons and we're dealing with the science here, we're talking about virgin birth, and isn't that what Mary's supposed to be? She's supposed to be a virgin. It's very interesting. A child is eventually born with a gestation period usually lasting 10 months. The protein referred to above is located in the body's original cell, which are 8 in number, and located at the base of the spine. This is the root of the kundalini, and in the first physical base of life, where spirit first unite with the matter. This 8, and when we talk about entities, they enter through the root chakra to try to become physical, because they want to feel physical things. Sometimes they could be family members. Sometimes they could be people that you love and know, that have a certain attachment to you. You see? And sometimes they go into your pineal gland and may even haunt. You may go home and the spirit is sitting on your fucking couch. Come into your house every day, living in a bubble. Because they trap themselves. You can become trapped in your reality. That's why I said never stick to one particular format constantly all the time. Change it up sometime. Because your mind pattern, if you leave this physical realm with that mind pattern, you get stuck in an orb. Living out the same thing every day in your living room, coming home, sitting down, watching TV, coming to your house. That's what those little bubbles you see at graveyards called orbs. People are trapped in that. Those are thought patterns trapped. It's not the actual person, but it's his energy, his thoughts. And they collect up and attach to your auric field. And then you go to work and you kind of try to do something, and their thoughts move in and hinders what you're trying to do. All right? So understand that. The protein referred to above, these 8 cells are juxtaposed in a geometrical fashion that consists of 2 pyramids. And that sounds like a tetrahedron. For cells make up a pyramid or tetrahedron. Now, a tetrahedron could be used to time travel. time travel with tetrahedron, you can go to alternate realities and dimensions, because that's what they did at Montauk. They used the delta T antenna. The other four make another similar pyramid. The two tetrahedrons then interlock upside down to each other. If you were to take a two-dimensional side view, the cell structure would look like the seal of Solomon, more popularly recognized as the Star of David. The geometrical structure contains all the wisdom of the universe and can be tapped either physically or electromagnetically. We're still talking about what's inside the womb here. There's a child being made here. So what they're saying is physically or electromagnetically. This is also the exact point where Montauk boys had a decision. There was young children that were programmed as children in the 60s and the 70s who are adults now as sleepers. So you'll see in the newspaper, man go crazy at post office or in school and shoot 12, 13 people. Those are Montauk children who are programmed at Montauk to do these things and triggered later on through a television show, through a word, through whatever. If you feel as though you're around a sleeper or someone that's about to be triggered, like the brother took me to the radio station, he said the guy who runs the radio station was shot. He was shot. That's a sleeper. Why would you do that? That's a sleeper. And he has a very powerful radio station because we can't do no shit like that in New York. They will shut you down the first fucking day. Gone. So if you're doing the work, protect yourself constantly. Whenever you see something that don't feel right or look right with you, put the violet all around you. Walk around in a violet bubble. If you have to, visualize a fucking violet gun. Do something. Do something. All right. The Montauk boys have had incisions for abductions purposes, tetrahedron, and is taking the latent protein within the center of the tetrahedron and is awakening the Kundalini. And we talked about premature Kundalini activation. With the zone in particular, a magical child is then created. And we know that you can go right down to your bookstore and see a book called Magical Child with Aleister Crowley's name on it. All right? And so what I'm going to do right here is I'm going to stop for a minute because my mouth is getting dry and I'm a little bit tired, and take questions from the audience on any subject: sexuality, mind control, and programming. Hit the light, please. Any questions, anybody? Yeah.
So where do these entities come from? Are these entities, demons?
They're generational spirits.
Okay, and
They're earth energies. Earth has its own energy, mixed with human genetics. They put you in the earth when you die. Your genetics mix with the earth. You create a morphogenetic grid.
I don't like earthbound spirits. I don't like what you call earthbound spirits.
It's earthbound energy. When I say spirit, when I say ghost, when I say God, I'm talking energy. That's what I'm talking about. You produce a certain energy there.
So no, at least
That's why a pyramid, if you see, not all pyramids have sarcophagus in it, but the Egyptians, they were buried a certain way, and they always had something to project the energy up. Does that answer your question?
Okay, no, not entirely. But you said that, and it could also be, did you say generational?
Yeah.
So that front to ancestral?
No, ancestral spirits are the spirits in your genetics. It's actually you. Generational spirits are the spirit of the energy that you released in the form of adrenochrome and other chemicals into the body that feed the plants, that make the trees and plants grow up. Those are generational. A tree is a generational spirit. That's why it bleeds amber. And you use amber to tap into ancient DNA. It brings back your memory of times before you were even born. That's what amber does. And that's why they don't want you going to California to the redwood forest, because it opens up ancient DNA. Any other questions? Yeah.
Yeah, I mentioned to you earlier, I was wondering, you spoke about like ultra low frequencies. Is that any connection to the HARP program?
Yes, HARP, not really connected to HARP because now they have, almost every country has a HARP type. HARP is a 144 antennas in Alaska that they use to penetrate the ozone layers. And when they do that, actually what they say they're doing damage to it, but what they're really doing it for is to create a frequency fence, which was finished in 1995. And the frequency fence stopped tachyon, which is cosmic thought, from coming onto the planet and awakening, because they knew the whole science of what's happening with you. There's some heavy stuff going on with you, heavy powers. When you look at Obama, we could break down the Illuminati side of it and the mind control side of it, but it's still the rise of a black man. He's still being used to energize black people to a certain level of pride about themselves. So that's happening all over the world. So there's a certain elevation that they're trying to stop, and they cannot stop it. It's inevitable and must happen. And so the HARP is one of the things that were built a long time ago. I think maybe it started building in the 40s to put up what's known as a frequency fence to stop cosmic rays from coming in with this whole Nibiru shit and all like that going on. Yeah.
If you haven't spoken already of methods of
Clean the aura. Use violet is the best way to do it. And as I said before, you take a violet light bulb and you put it in your bathroom when you want to take a shower. You turn off the regular light like this here and put the violet light on, and that'll cleanse your aura off.
What does a red light bulb do?
Red light bulb will help you to see entities in your house. It's like an infrared, like this light right here.
Yeah.
It's infrared, and if you put a red light bulb in your house and you have demons or entities in your house, you'll be able to see them. Yeah.
The red light bulb, we're told that signifies that there's like prostitutes, things like that. Where does that come from?
Which one?
You know that the red light district over here, we have that red light district.
Oh, well, because what did we just say? Red is, the root chakra opens up your sexuality. And there are women that are actually programmed to be hookers. They're programmed to be hookers. Everything has some form of mind control. A lot of us in here have, most of us, or not, I don't like to say most, all of us have a form of programming. Because your mind is built that way. That's why you only have 2 eyes instead of 3. If you were not programmed, you would have 3 eyes or 4, many eyes as you fucking want. And that's what the whole science of the Tibetan monks and the yogis were trying to do, is to break the mind control of the God mind control to be able to do those things and walk through walls and all this kind of stuff. So we're programmed to a certain degree, but it's the way you're programmed is so that you can live out your reality and gain the information that you need to gain in physical reality, because physical reality is a hologram.
You mentioned something on radio, was it? I'm not sure, it was this morning. You talking about some things that some of our women do unconsciously.
What'd you say, brother?
You're talking about some things that some of our women do unconsciously that tend to put the men off.
Well, no, it's not just women. In America, women it's almost 10 to 1. So a lot of them will walk around a little bit angry and upset. And I challenge the men to have compassion and understand. Understand that it's 10 to 1 out there and all the men are in jail or locked down in some kind of way. So you got to have compassion for people, and especially people that are of the same ethnicity or the same species mind pattern, because it has an effect on you. It has an effect on you. You can't kill all the dinosaurs and leave one alive and think he's going to make it. Right? It's a species thing. Yeah.
Orgies. Could you elaborate on
Orgies can be good if all the people are aware of what they're doing and have the mind pattern to do that. Because a lot of times it's hard for either men to see their wife have sex with another man and vice versa. So it could be very traumatic you know, the idea may be good for most people, but in the long run, after it's all over, and the people, some of the people that may have those thoughts may have a whole different thought after it's all over. But the Moors, what they did was they would have group weddings. And I think I mentioned that on the Sex Magic. The group weddings mean that they all were couples that got married at the same time to each other. And that's where you get the whole thing of wife swapping. But if you have people of like minds, and then usually these orgies took place in ancient Native America, in Mexico, and all over the world where you really found indigenous people, but it was for a particular reason. There may have been a drought. They may not have any food. Something may have been going on. They did go see the movie Matrix when Morpheus say, okay, everybody get down, party. It was in actuality, they couldn't show it in the movie, but it was in actuality a gigantic orgy to defeat the robots. So yes, it's valid, but people have to be on a much, much higher level unless they're programmed to do so by the Illuminati to project out a certain thought. The energy would be extremely powerful though, very, very powerful, and that's why it's so put down by society. They don't want you doing that shit because that shit will produce some powerful stuff for you on this face of this earth. But it's a very, very powerful energy. Yeah.
In relation to sex magic, what is Kama Sutra?
Basically, all of it is good. It's just the thing that I would say is that make sure you have an orgasmic release at the end of it. There are so many different techniques and different formats that different people put out in different books, from the Yogi Masters to Montauk Chia to so on and so on. There are various writers and various techniques. But the main thing I would say is to make sure you have the orgasmic release at the end, because what you're doing is you're pulling all these energies and you're building it and you're building it. Yes, it's powerful and you feel good, but it needs to be released. Otherwise, it gets stagnant and stores up and can actually hurt you because you're not like other people.
So is it a myth that they say that there's a lot of master teachers that they ejaculate because, like Jesus, for instance, never had sex or whatever else?
No, you could live your life. You gotta understand something. No, you could live your life alone. The masters were betas. You see, a lot of them. You see, one thing is for sure. You see this word right here? Not everyone needs a partner. Not everyone needs a reflection. Not everyone needs to have a mirror of themselves on the outside. So the supreme energy, which we call God, is alone. And that's what we're working on to becoming. All right? All one. So there's nothing wrong with being by yourself either.
So did you say that ejaculation is very important?
I think it is. I think it is very important. Very, very important, yes. Not just ejaculation, but orgasm. Orgasm is very, because if a person, especially a female, I think, does not have an orgasm, they tend to build up that tension and need that orgasmic release. And the same is true for a man, actually. Because when you don't have an orgasm, the symbology of that is not releasing new ideas. Because the orgasm and the sperm represents a new creation into physical reality. And by not doing that, you're saying, I don't want to put out no new ideas. I'm going to have an abortion if I get pregnant and all these kind of things. Stopping new ideas. Let the sister go first, brother, then we'll get you next.
A lot of the times, men have more than one woman, and a lot of the times females get angry or they'll go and take revenge or whatever. How would you say, what's the best way for women to deal with that emotion and to not bring that emotion across to other people?
Right, it's very hard today, but what I would recommend is that
I didn't hear what she said.
repeat that, sister.
A lot of the time and beat up the girl or something like that.
Yeah, and that's because women feel that they're losing their protection. They're losing the one that's going to take care of them and be with them. And for men, it's the opposite. Men are more territorial. They don't want nobody fucking with their woman because they're territorial. And they're not as grounded as women. Women are more grounded to the earth plane. That's why she has the baby. Because she becomes grounded. She can't do nothing now. You've got a baby. And that's why a lot of women are reluctant to have babies, because they become grounded and can't make that movement. Whereas the man feels as though in his nature to have as many children and go around as far as he can, be as free as he want to be, because man is right brain, is spatial. All right, so the thinking is totally different. And so you need to balance that out. So you balance it out by relearning or reactivating the information within you about how to meet the right man, how to come across and deal with the right person for you. As we talked about the face, study the facial features. You know what the cheekbones represent. A person with high cheekbones means a very deep vagina. So you could get books on this stuff. You could get books on this stuff. Right, and a person with watery, large eyes and watery, kind of on a watery, glassy thing is very sexually strong, very strong sexually. So if you're not, then, you know, you don't want to get with a woman that's overpowering or overbearing with you. So I mean, all the science is in you. Just study yourself, study nature. That's what all you have to do. You don't have to really, well, you're going to need books to trigger that information, but just by looking at what's around you, studying it, be observant. Yeah.
So what would high cheekbones be for a male?
A high cheekbones for a male might mean the same thing. Might mean the same thing. Yeah. For a male, though, for a female who wants a guy with a large penis, he would have to have big or large lips. Very big lips represents a large penis. Now, this is not 100% sure, but it's 98%. 98%, yes.
When you have an energy and you want to willfully exchange energies or tap into certain energies, for instance, for different powers or just exchange powers if you already know the powers, how do you willfully engage or swap or enhance each other?
Right, it's definitely a very powerful energy. And there are different types of orgies. There are all male orgies. There are all female orgies. There's mixed orgies. The Greeks would actually, the females would come together, and when they came together in an orgy, they would become more receptive and stronger sexually. And the males, the Greeks did this, they would have mud wrestling. And the female would get very sexually strengthened just by doing the mud, wrestling another woman. She would get sexually stimulated because of the touching, the feeling, the breasts, and all these kind of things. And by the way, a woman with large breasts is a woman, men, if you want a nurturing woman, you get a woman with large breasts. They're very nurturing people. But when you're in the mud wrestling, the females will become very, very stimulated. The females will become very, very stimulated. And then after that, the men would have sex with them, and they become very, very strong sexually after the mud wrestling. So I mean, there are various types of orgies and various types of sexuality. They had all male orgies. What would happen is the Greeks would have these male orgies, and the men would become stronger sexually when they left that alone with the woman. You see, so this is a science that they practice. If you get any of those books done, the hardcover books on art, Western art in Rome and in Greek, they'll show a lot of this stuff. It looks weird and strange, you don't know what it is, but there was a science behind it, what we're doing. We didn't really have to do that, but that aspect of it, the homosexual act of it, was more of the Greeks, the white Greeks that came later. The original Greeks were black. So we're talking about the white, when you go watch Caligula, go re-look at Caligula. All the science is in Caligula. Yeah.
What about energies or entities passed on from sex?
Yes, they are, entities are always, if you don't monitor your thoughts during sex, they're always waiting around to incarnate into a physical body. Always. So, yeah, you could have sex with your wife or your woman or whatever, and she gets pregnant, and based on the thoughts you have, and that's why I said monitor your thought, based on and having sex in front of the TV and all kind of shit, you don't know, you projecting in, you're giving access to those demonic entities. You're giving them access. Focus. Think about money or some shit or whatever. Focus on something positive for you. I can testify it works. It works. Sex magic works. I wouldn't be able to stand before you and tell you about it unless I've gone through the process of it and researched it myself.
What about the types of music you listen to?
Music, I showed yesterday the sister that was triggered to have an epileptic fit based on the music of the CD. So leave the CDs alone. Go see the movie Josie and the Pussycats. We'll break down the CDs for you and how they're putting in the subliminal messages. Because the message, what it does is when you hear it, it produces a thought in your mind that attracts a demon. The thoughts attract whatever you want to you. And then the demon comes in and produces through the child or whatever.
So you wouldn't advise to listen to music while having sex?
I wouldn't, not the CD. Get you some old scratched up albums.
Vinyl.
Yeah,
Vinyl.
or transfer it over or do something with it. Get you some organs, you know, do something, but don't go directly from a CD. I mean, it sounds nice. They'll put Barry White, they'll re-release all that stuff. R. Kelly and all like that. I mean, R. Kelly, look at the whole shit he's going through with sexuality. He's a child molester. That was just, they showed you the oldest one. They didn't show you the young ones on the videotape. See, so you want to make sure you control your, if you have a thought that you can't control, put a big brown X through it. Or stop the thought from happening. If you have a negative thought about somebody or something, it just pops into your head, say, what the fuck was that? It's not necessarily your thought, but they're attached to you. You might walk past no good motherfucker on the street, some white boy on the street or something like that, that something jumped off to him and jumped right on you. And you put and the thought will come in. That's how you know it's there. And you put a brown X through that thought. Any more questions? Come on now. Yeah.
How do you monitor human frequencies?
Say it again.
How do you monitor human frequencies?
How do you monitor them?
Yeah.
They have something called an electrocephalogram, where they can monitor the brain, which, any of you ever took a polygraph test? Yeah, polygraph test where they tell you telling a lie or truth. That's the one of the forms of the Montauk chair, because it reads your thoughts. Yeah, they're connected to your pulse. It reads your thoughts. But the electrocephalogram is something they can hook up to tell whether you're dead or alive, the frequency of a dream, the frequency of how you think, and so on and so on. Call it EEG.
So what the CD thing, what's about the CDs?
CDs have subliminal messages in them. I recommend, I mean, you guys are on the by me just telling you this, it already you begin to block the mind control. Just by your knowledge of it, your awareness. You're activating that crown chakra to block it, which is violet.
What was he saying this morning about Frankenstein?
Oh, Frankenstein. Yeah, we were talking about the Moors, which I didn't get to finish that yesterday. With the history of the Moors, is when the Garamantes walked from North Africa into Europe and finally landed in Germany. But they landed also in England and all over the Europe, because as we know, Europe is Europa, the more known than Europa. So they were all over Europe, and what happened was the Germans moved into France, where there were also Jews, because Jews are really what? Germans, right? The Garamantes were teaching them at that particular time. That's the whole story of the white man in the cave. You never see a black man in the cave. I don't care, all throughout the cartoons and the movies, it was always a white man in the cave, never a black man. To educate them. The mixing of the French, the Jews, and the Germans became known as a Frankenstein. They were known as, because that's what people of mixed race are looked at as. And they're actually used, as we talked about yesterday, to send out scalar waves. And that's why Frankenstein is electronic, really. He's awakened through electricity. They raise him up and all like that. He's a mix between the Frank family in France and the German family and some Jews. And the Moors have a little mix in there also. So it was dealing with genetic experimentation. So Mary Shelley, later on, based on the golem, it was called the golem at the time. The golem became the actual symbol of protection for the Jews, which later Mary Shelley, who was Illuminati, came out with this story or this novel known as Frankenstein, talking about the golem, talking about the Garamantes coming into Africa and so on and so on. You could get, as a matter of fact, if you go online and just type in Mary Shelley and start to do the research, going back and back and back, it'll start to break down the story for you. Anybody else? Yeah.
Yeah, what is the ultimate goal of these demons? And what is their pursuit? What's their aim?
The main control is control, really. To control.
Where did they come from and what is their purpose?
Demons?
Yeah.
Well, demons are produced by negative thoughts in this physical realm. There are demons that could come from other realms, in other dimensions, because you function from other. Tomorrow we'll talk about the dimensions that are in your head, in your brain, dealing with the left and right brain. But they come from different dimensions. When you go to sleep at night in your dreams are symbolic of things that really exist in another dimension, in hyperspace. So when you go to dream, just think about all the things you dream about. Things come through your pineal gland through your dreams. And that is when you go to bed at night and you got your TV on and you got some electronic shit on, they can actually induce the sleep and use your pineal gland to bring entities through. So this universe there's no beginning and no end. So for me to tell you that there was where did it come from? It's an eternal thing. It's eternity. They're all over the place, different dimensions and different realities. If you get the book get the pseudepigraphers. The pseudepigraphers break down how different angels and demons work together to build the human body.
Can you spell that?
I don't even know how to spell that. Pseudepigrapher. Yeah.
Doesn't the word demon mean your true self?
Say it again.
Doesn't the word demon mean your true self?
The demiurge, yes. Subconscious mind. Anybody else?
Suppose you don't have no dreams.
Everyone dreams. You will die if you don't dream. Why?
Don't
Because
remember it.
you don't remember it. You will die if you don't dream because all the information you took in during your daily walk of life, it stores up in your brain. Your brain got to get rid of it. That's why you get sleepy. Because it's too much weight, gravity. So it has to go down into the subconscious mind. You can't store it up here. You can't stay awake more than a week. You'll go crazy, out of balance. So you have to get rid of that. You have to store that information. And when you store that information, it is your subconscious mind that interprets it. Your conscious mind interprets the waking state. Your subconscious mind interprets the dream state. Anybody else?
When you say subconscious mind, very fancy of RNA and the DNA.
No. I'm talking about the brain. We break it down into sections so that we understand what we're talking about. You have a unconscious mind, you have a subconscious mind, a conscious mind, and a superconscious mind. The unconscious mind is too chaotic. The Illuminati doesn't even use that to program because there's too much shit going on down there, and it's dealing with the collective consciousness. The subconscious mind is dealing with your personal reality that you lived out your day. You sunk that information down, and you need to interpret it. You didn't pay attention to it, so the subconscious mind said, you didn't pay attention to what went on, so here's this dream. Break this down. The conscious mind just takes what physical reality is out here, what's logical that it sees, and deals with it like you got a job every day and do the work on the job every day. The superconscious mind is the right brain and it's very spatial. It deals with stuff on the astral plane. When I tell you to visualize, you're dealing with the superconscious mind. Brother right there. Yeah, that's it.
The underworld, the subconscious one?
Yes. Yes. Sister.
What happens to the mind? Where does the mind go when you're in a coma?
When you what?
In a coma.
In a coma.
Where does the mind go?
It goes like in a type of limbo. What a coma is that a person in a coma is stuck in one of those orbs that we talked about. And the reason why they're stuck is because they're afraid to die, but they're afraid to live. So they're stuck. They're stuck, right.
Is that what they mean when they say people trapped between realms?
Right. You become trapped, and it's when I say trapped, they become trapped. Either go see the movie. What's that movie where Malcolm X kills George Bush? Huh? No. There's a movie where Malcolm X kills George Bush. Sublime. Go get the movie Sublime. A white man goes to the hospital to get a checkup or whatever, and he goes into a coma. And when he goes into the coma, Malcolm X is there. They break down the science for you. Malcolm X is there, and he's torturing him, killing him. Later, after the movie is over, they tell you that man was George Bush, and that the guy that was killing him was Malcolm X. And he comes out, it's Lawrence, what's the guys that played? Lawrence Hilton Jacobs. Lawrence Hilton Jacobs is playing Malcolm X in the movie. It's called Sublime. But they become trapped in a dimension where they're punishing themselves because they are afraid to move forward, yet they're afraid to die and they're afraid to live. And they're actually punishing themselves based on that. And the punishment is in the form of this movie is Malcolm X cutting them up and shit, you know.
He's sitting on top of him.
Yeah, you got to see that. I wish I had brought some copies with me. Yes.
So does that mean also that you're in a state of different consciousness when you don't remember them? Because I mean, you do remember, like I said, it's in another compartment of your brain, but it just simply means you don't recall, or rather, you haven't, you don't want to, or you don't probably know how to get into that part of the brain to pull it out.
Right. We dismiss it because we've been trained to. We were trained to dismiss it because a lot of people are programmed not to remember their dreams for a specific reason. But since you were a child, it became fictitious, and you know. So you retain the information, but it's hard for you to get it back up into the conscious mind. It's still in the subconscious mind because you're awake now, and when you're awake, you interpret the waking state. The conscious mind interprets the waking state. So you can't remember the dream as much because the subconscious mind interprets the dream state. Yes, you can. Yes. As soon as you wake up in the morning, you start to write it down because as soon as you wake up, as soon as you open your eyes, it starts to disappear. Yeah.
What would you kind of like to say, like when people say you have deja vu, when you hear something like happens?
Yes, that happens to a lot of people lately. Lately, a lot of people have been telling me about deja vu. One thing about that is, I feel as though they're doing some kind of time travel, and it's been happening to us a lot. Me and my queen one day were sitting down and we saw a UFO in the newspaper, and we turned our head back, it was gone. And so every time you feel deja vu, go back to the movie Matrix. Yeah, go back to the movie Matrix. I'm going to take one more question, and then I'm going to shut it down from there.
What about recurring dreams?
Reoccurring dreams means that you didn't take care of the situation of the first dream. Because your dream is just telling you that what you need to do, what you need to take care of in your physical state. When you wake up, you need to take care of this problem. This is the symbology, and you didn't take care of it, so it keeps reoccurring, and finally it'll become a nightmare. One more. Yes, bro.
Could you elaborate on when you said that Black Americans
how black Americans became more powerful due to the mixing that went on during slavery.
Right. Because there's a book called God Will the Negro, and it shows that people in America are descendants of the Nubians that were in Egypt. Then, based on slavery, a lot of the rapes that took place in slavery, we took on the genetics of the white race. So we have not only black in us, but we also have the white man in us also.
Does that apply to British as well?
Yes, because there was slavery here too. Yeah, sure. I think it started here, actually.
Spain. Spain.
Spain. All right? So we're going to close it right now. Try to make sure you come out tomorrow. We're going to deal with dreams.